Mandala, that's safe though. Oh my god,
Here
he
we
gets
go.
cocky right
Here
here.
we go. It
It's a good
begins.
look.
It
He
begins.
still has burst. He still has burst, but it's a good look. Whoa, it's so much damage.
Oh my god, the reset! Oh my god!
This is Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. It's probably my favorite fighting game of all time, but there's a bit of a problem. This game has been all but abandoned by both Atlus and Arc System Works, the publisher and developers of the game respectively. For most games, this would be the nail in the coffin. I mean, a competitive game with no support from the developers usually means an inevitable death, but not for this game. Despite the numerous factors that could have meant the end of the game forever, the community has kept pushing for over 10 years. This video will be a story of the perseverance of the Persona 4 Arena community, and how this dedicated group of people have kept supporting the game when the developers themselves gave up on it. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. This story begins on September 8th, 2011. This was the date Persona 4 Arena was first revealed, and needless to say, people were shocked. Atlus and Arc System Works, the biggest anime fighting game developer out there, teaming up to create a Persona 4 fighting game that would act as a canonical sequel and bring together the P3 and P4 casts? I mean, this was completely unheard of back then, and to this day, this is the only game to bring together the cast in a way that isn't forgotten by all the characters afterward. With how Atlus operates now, this doesn't seem too out of the ordinary, but this was actually the first major spin-off they ever created. There had been some mobile games up to this point, but nothing on the scale of this. Needless to say, the hype for this game was through the roof. Of course, some people were confused or annoyed that Atlus was putting so much focus into Persona 4, a recurring theme even to this very day, but it was clear that there was an interest for the game. All the way up to release, they would release trailers highlighting the gameplay mechanics and storyline, and when people finally got their hands on it, people liked it. In fact, this game outsold many other fighting games that were released around it, including Street Fighter Cross Tekken and Skullgirls. It was an easy game for beginners to get the hang of, and it was even the progenitor of many things Arc System Works would adopt into their games going forward. It had online play, albeit not the best online play, 390 combo challenges, music from Persona 3 and 4 with new music made specifically for the game, tons of routes in the story mode, and all the style you'd come to expect out of the Persona series. Some die-hard fighting game players criticized the game for being too easy or unbalanced, but it was generally well received by fans and critics alike, garnering an 86 overall on Metacritic. Upon seeing the success for Persona 4 Arena, Atlus and ArcSys quickly got to work on a sequel to the game. Only a year or so after the release of Arena in 2012, the sequel Persona 4 Arena Ultimax was revealed on September 26, 2013. This game had it all. Every Persona 4 and Persona 3 main party member that could feasibly make an appearance. More characters, more stages, more moves, you name it. And of course, it continued the story from where it left off in the previous game. It would also allow you to play as shadow versions of the characters. If you count the shadow variants as separate characters, this game has a total of 37 characters. It's a massive game, and once again, people were quite excited, but not to the same extent as the first game. You can't really blame them though. Atlus had just released the first game, and now they were releasing another one you'd have to pay full price for. They must have realized this would be more of a hard sale, so they went all out with the marketing material. Every single character in the game had a dedicated trailer made for them, highlighting their gameplay and a small part of their story. Surprisingly, the game did sell fairly well, but it didn't match the sales numbers of the previous game. Despite that, the first year of the game went quite strong. It had a good turnout at the fighting game tournament EVO in 2014, but this is where some of the issues start propping up. Around the end of 2014 to the beginning of 2015, a new version of the game came out in Japanese arcades, the 2.0 patch. There's a lot to this story, and my knowledge of the game's history is a little fuzzy at this point, so I'll keep this part concise so as to avoid spreading misinformation. The game up to this point had been losing players fast. Competitors like Ultra Street Fighter 4, Guilty Gear Xrd, Mortal Kombat X, BlazBlue Central Fiction, Dead or Alive 5, and more were putting Ultimax on the chopping block. Basically, the competitive scene for this game was getting gutted before it even had a chance to thrive. In 2012, when Arena came out, the competition was nowhere near as fierce, and this is all without mentioning the elephant in the room that the game was exclusive to PS3 and Xbox 360, despite being a year into the next generation. It felt like everything that could go wrong with this game's PR was happening, but that 2.0 patch could have been the small push to bring it to the forefront once again. But it never came. People waited for any sort of updates, but it was dead silence. Atlus made the call to keep the standard console patch for EVO 2015, and after that, nothing. Persona 4 Arena Ultimax was never updated again, and it would never again be a main game at EVO. We don't know the true story behind what happened, but the fact that the console versions of the games would forever be on an outdated version meant disaster in every aspect. There was no incentive for anyone to continue playing. This isn't to say no one kept playing, but with all odds stacked against it and the developers themselves abandoning the game to focus on other projects, I mean, what was to be expected? Week by week, month by month, and year by year, the player base continued to get smaller. Every now and then there would be a spike, whether it be through Milpy videos or a random event, but there was just no consistency. Ironically, content creators like Milpy were doing more for the game than Atlus or ArcSys had done in years, with their Shadow Naoto video garnering over 1 million views. This amount of views is great for any Persona video, but an Ultimax video? Absolutely unheard of. This now leads me into the second half of this video, the redemption of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. This part of the story begins on February 22nd, 2021, the date I began playing Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. I'm beginning this section of the video with my own personal account since this is the point I know the most about. I joined a Discord server called Persona Fight Club, a server dedicated to playing Ultimax through a service called Parsec. Without going in detail, it's sort of like SharePlay on PlayStation, just way better. We played the game through something called Shadow PCs, a service you paid monthly to get access to PCs on dedicated servers. You could play the game peer-to-peer, but the Shadow PCs were the optimal conditions to play it in. Ironic that a service called Shadow PC was the saving grace for a Persona 4 fighting game. At the time, I was astonished by the whole thing. People were spending a lot of money every month just to play the game, all for the sole reason that they loved it. I'm not someone who tends to join servers and stick around for long, if at all, but this server was different. I had never seen a community so dedicated to something, and that passion was infectious to me, so I continued to play. It was the first fighting game I ever got decent at. I learned some basic combos, pressure, basically the fundamentals of how fighting games work. Although I was never there from the beginning, when the server was created in January of 2020, I saw a lot of things the community did just to keep the game alive. Tournaments, sets against top-level players, casual streams, crew battles, tutorials to get the game working and learn it, you name it. Even though Atlus and ArcSys had abandoned the game for over half a decade by this point, the community, however niche, kept enjoying and playing the game anyways. But more importantly, there was a new development to come. During the 2021 Game Awards, Atlus had announced they would be revealing something as part of the 25th anniversary of the Persona series. Of course, the chances of it being an Ultimax port to PC and modern systems were slim, but it wasn't impossible, so we all sat down and we watched. And little did we know what we were about to see.
Something you did not see coming.
Wait. 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 Wait.
Hello, the Game Awards! I come bearing
Wait.
news!
No.
After Persona 4 Golden?
No way.
Check out Persona 4
Oh.
Ultimax and find out! I can
Oh my
show you
God.
what everybody's doing!
No way. No way. Oh my God. Oh. Oh. Oh my God.
To say the community was happy would be an understatement. Our favorite game was back. We wouldn't have to play on Shadow PCs anymore, and more people than ever would finally be able to play the game again. After many long years of dead silence from Atlus and ArcSys, the game we loved was finally getting its time to shine once again. This reveal is something I will never forget. It might seem silly from an outside perspective for a port of a 2014 fighting game to be this special, but it just goes to show how dedicated the fans are for this game. And the cherry on top, for the first time ever, the 2.0 version would be released outside of Japan. What? I mean, no one saw this coming. It almost felt like a dream come true. The new version, a new port, I mean, it was too good to be true. Once the game was revealed on December 9th, 2021, all we had to do was wait for the eventual release date of March 17th that following year. With all of this excitement aside, there was one very important factor to keep in mind. In the modern era of fighting games, and really any competitive game out there, the most important thing is how good the online infrastructure is. In the case of fighting games, there are two common netcode structures, delay-based and rollback netcode. Ultimax was initially released on delay-based netcode, but rollback is the gold standard for fighting games. If you're not familiar with how rollback netcode works, then I would recommend this video from Core A Gaming. They do a very good explanation of it. We had almost everything needed to make this port perfect. All that was left was for Atlus and ArcSys to announce what netcode infrastructure the game would use, and it was remaining on delay-based netcode.
Yo, you gotta be fucking kidding me! Fuck!
For clarity, a game in 2022 releasing on delay-based netcode was almost a nail in the coffin right off the bat. So what did the community that stuck with this game for the longest time, do in response to this? A statement was made. Once rollback was deconfirmed, people did everything in their power to try and get the attention of the developers and get them to add rollback to the game. People made Twitter posts, YouTube videos, Steam boards, and more to spread awareness on the issue. In moments like this, as unfortunate as it is, it's not uncommon for the developers to ignore the complaints of the fan base, especially if it's a Japanese developer getting feedback from overseas fans. In most fighting games, the developers listen to the Japanese player base first and foremost. This is even the case with the biggest fighting games in the world, like Street Fighter 6 to this day. Despite that, people kept making their voices heard. Day by day, week by week, people asked for rollback to be added into the new ports of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. As people were starting to give up hope, it happened.
さて、ロールバック機能なんですけれども、今年の夏頃にね、皆さんに配信予定になっておりますので、こちらもどうぞご期待いただければと思います。僕らもね、皆さんが対戦でまた盛り上がってくれることを楽しみにしておりますので、今後とも P4AU2 どうぞよろしくお願いします。それではまた。
Against all odds, the community's efforts were rewarded. Rollback was coming to Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. It might not be at launch, but we could rest assured that the game was going to be in the best state it had ever been in. Now all we had to do was wait until the March 17th release date, then for rollback shortly after. But as is a common theme across this game's history, things did not go that smoothly. When everyone finally got their hands on the game at launch, let's just say it was rough, like really rough. The port for this game on PC was nearly unplayable, and while the PS4 and Switch versions had better performance for sure, they still had issues. Audio glitches, game crashes, performance issues, there was a lot going wrong. Needless to say, this put a dampening on everyone's excitement. People have been waiting for years for this game to come back, and it comes back like this? This was a lot of people's first impression of the game, and as we all know, impressions are everything. So this was many people's first and only experience with the game. Of course, die-hard fans would stick around, and many new ones as well, but it's no surprise that a game launching in this kind of state had a negative impact on the install base. The worst part, some of these issues remain to this day. Major issues like rooms crashing almost any time you joined one were fixed, but some things like spectator lag have remained. Despite this, people had fun with the game when it was released once again. Sure, it wasn't optimal conditions, but the scene was coming back ever so slightly. More tournaments, more crew battles, more everything was to come, and even more once Rollback would drop. Rollback took a very long time to release though. I mean, the devs really I swear they hated this game. It was about 5 months of waiting. Once everything was said and done though, it was definitely a better experience than what we were on before. Unfortunately, once again, Atlus and ArcSys basically went ghost on the game after Rollback was released. Of course, the situation was nowhere near as bad as it was before, but the fact remained that while they gave up on it for the second time over, the community once again came to its rescue. A couple years ago, I made a video titled Ultimax is Not Dead. It was part of a large push from the community to spread awareness that the game had rollback and it still had an active player base. So where is the community nowadays? Still around and kicking. In fact, you could argue the community of Ultimax is in the best position it has ever been in. Now that Rollback Netcode is in the game, it has opened up a new world of opportunities. We've now done North America versus Japan events. Tournaments are now open to larger regions. More people can play the game in better conditions, and there are new players getting into the game every single day. The Persona Fight Club Discord for the game has over 12,000 people in it. It's being featured at fighting game tournaments like Frosty Faustin, CEO Taku, and is part of huge tournament series like Tampa Never Sleeps. This game regularly has hundreds, if not thousands of people watching these events. I'm sure you've heard that Persona 4 Arena Ultimax is dead or that it has no players. But the truth is, there have always been players for this game. Despite the developers giving up on it, the PS3 version being stuck on an outdated version of the game, the port having issues, having to use shadow PCs for the game, people love this game so much that they stuck through all of these issues. Ultimax truly has one of the most dedicated fan bases I have ever seen in gaming, and I hope this video gave you some inspiration to never give up on the things you hold dear. People could have easily moved on to the next big thing, but they didn't. They loved Ultimax, so they kept playing it, and their dedication was rewarded. If you'd like to be a part of the journey of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, then join the Persona Fight Club Discord and get to fighting. There are plenty of resources for beginners to learn the game, and there are other beginners for you to fight against. This game will never die. It's been alive for over a decade, and I see no signs of it stopping now. Long live Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like and a sub. It would help the channel out a lot, and I'll give you a free cookie as always. Here you go, homie. Also, as I'm sure you can very clearly tell, I am using a new microphone. I put on some new settings, so if you like the sound of this new microphone, let me know. But if you don't like it, I can swap back to the old mic as well, so just drop a comment, let me know how you feel. But that's all I gotta say. It's been your boy Yandere Gogeta, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out, everybody, and have a great day.